Moon of the Closed Heaven is going to ruin Yu-Gi-Oh! And here's why. How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to talk about Moon of the Closed Heaven, or you might still know it as Moon Goddess of the Closed Sky. And honestly, that's how I know it. I'm going to keep calling it Moon Goddess or Moon of the Closed Sky forever. But it's a pretty unassuming card that's a good generic Link 2 monster releasing in the TCG in the Infinite Forbidden. Its effect is pretty bad, but it's going to be one of the most played cards in the game, and is going to honestly really hurt how Yu-Gi-Oh! Is being played for the foreseeable future. And if you're planning on going to the NAWCQ the literal day after this card releases, then you're going to want to be ready for it, because it's going to be insane. So leave a like and subscribe so you never miss another video, but here's why Moon of the Closed Heaven will ruin Yu-Gi-Oh! So I'm making some pretty serious accusations about this random Link 2 monster, and I better have enough proof to back it up. But when I actually tell you the effect for this card, you're gonna look at me like I'm crazy. Basically, Moon is a generic Link 2 monster that requires any 2 effect monsters. As an ignition effect, you can target one face-up opponent's monster this card points to. This turn, if you Link summon a Link 5 monster using this card you control as a material, you can also use that opponent's monster as material, and you can only use this effect once per turn. So as you can clearly tell, the reason why this card is broken is because now you can make Underworld Goddess of the Closed World even easier than before. And that's it. Actually, no, it has nothing to do with its effect at all. The effect could read absolutely nothing, and the card would still see so much play. The reason why this card is going to break the game is because it's exactly a light fiend monster found in the extra deck that is easily made by pretty much any strategy that can get 2 bodies on the field. The fact that it's a light fiend monster is the reason why it's so good. If it was a light beast monster or a water fiend, it wouldn't be good at all. But why is that the case? Well, first off, its effect is absolutely irrelevant. It honestly didn't even need an effect to begin with. But the reason why it's so good is because now any deck that can get 2 bodies on the field can summon out this card and therefore go through full Fiendsmith combo, which is going to be another new archetype coming in the Infinite Forbidden, and this archetype is the reason why Moon Goddess is going to be absolutely broken. In reality, the problem is actually going to be the Fiendsmith cards and the Fiendsmith combos that they enable. Moon Goddess just kind of like facilitates you getting there with pretty much every deck, and that's why I have a real problem with it. Fiendsmith is one of the new archetypes coming out in the Infinite Forbidden, and it's honestly fantastic, giving any deck that plays it access to any generic rank 6 monster, as well as a Link 2 monster to further extend their plays. Oh, and they don't even have to use their normal summon for the combo either, which is really strong. On top of that, the engine doesn't actually restrict the player in any way, shape, or form, meaning you can go through your full combo in addition to the Fiendsmith cards, which is terrifying. Now, the Fiendsmith engine really wants to have a light fiend monster on the field, and so far it's been pretty difficult to find a good, easily accessible, generic light fiend monster that everyone can use. And now that we have Moon of the Closed Heaven, everyone has access to one, especially because it's probably going to be a super rare or common. Moon of the Closed Heaven bridges every other deck in the format that wants to use the Fiendsmith cards with the Fiendsmith engine itself, allowing them to be able to link off the Moon of the Closed Heaven into a card like Fiendsmith Requiem, which we don't know its full confirmed name just yet, or even its rarity, but this is the card that makes Moon Goddess of the Closed Heaven that much stronger than any other alternative. Fiendsmith Requiem is a Link 1 monster that requires any light fiend monster as material, and honestly, every time we get a Link 1 monster, you know it has potential to be absolutely broken, and this card is no exception. During the main phase, as a quick effect, you can tribute this card for cost and special summon one Fiendsmith monster from your hand or deck. You can target one non-Link light fiend monster you control, equip this card from your field or graveyard to that monster you control as an equip spell that gives it 600 attack. Now, this effect can end up doing a few things for the strategy depending on if you're going first or second, but the main thing you always want to do is have the effect to summon out Fiendsmith Engraver directly from the deck. Quick aside, why on earth did they change the name of this guy from the Fiendsmith to Fiendsmith Engraver? Fiendsmith is just such a much cooler and better name, and honestly, it's what I'll be calling this card for pretty much forever. But the Fiendsmith has a few effects, and it's the namesake of the archetype. You can discard it to add a Fiendsmith spell or trap from your deck to your hand. You can target one Fiendsmith equip card you control and one monster on the field and send them to the graveyard. If this card is in the graveyard, you can shuffle one other light fiend from your graveyard into the deck or extra deck and special summon this card. So if you summon the Fiendsmith off of Requiem and you have another body on the field, then you can easily make a copy of Sequentia, which can then make a copy of Lacrimosa to add the Fiendsmith back to your hand, discard it to search for Tractus to get you another one to rotation as well, and then you're off to the races to get a ton of bodies on the field, while also potentially getting a good solid rank 6 monster as well. Something like, for example, Beatrice to be able to OTK with something like Ghost Meets Girl and Transaction Rollback, or you can make something like a DDD Wave Hiking Caesar for 2 monster negates, which is crazy to think of because a lot of the time you may not even need your normal summon. And Fiendsmith even has its own in-archetype payoffs as well, including Fiendsmith Lacrimosa, which I've already mentioned. It's a great monster as part of the combo because it's a level 6, so you can overlay with that one, but you can also use it to recycle your resources and even inflict burn damage in a pinch for time situations. But there's also Dai's Ire, which is another great boss monster as well. It's a huge body that also has Omni Negates for cards on the field as well. So look, if what I'm saying to you doesn't seem too threatening, it's because you're not looking at the bigger picture of this problem. These Fiendsmith cards can be incorporated into pretty much any deck in the format to give them access to easy negates for any of their plays to make sure hand traps are no longer a problem. Really, any deck that has room for 6 or 7 cards in the main deck between your Fiendsmith, your Tractus, and your Fabled Lurry, with 3 or 4 slots in the extra deck is going to be thrilled to play this engine. And if we just take a look back to 2019 TOS format, also known as the Eternal format, this format was notorious for setting up the Orchest combo, which could be achieved with any 2 monsters. The way you would do it would be to make a copy of Nightmare Cerberus or Nightmare Phoenix, link it off into Nightmare Mermaid, and use the effect to summon out a copy of Orchest Nightmare directly from the deck, and boom, there you have it, full Orchest combo. This is just the new and improved and more modern version of that same combo, because now we can do that with Moon of the Closed Sky and all the Fiendsmith cards, and it honestly doesn't seem very healthy to me in the slightest. Almost any deck can now FTK with Ghost Meets Girl and Transaction Rollback thanks to Beatrice to be able to essentially skip the opponent's turn. They can also set up the DDD monster for multiple negates, or what's going to see a lot of play is going to be sending a key starter to the graveyard for you to be able to use it while it's there, and maybe even revive it back with something like Promethean Princess, for example, to get your plays going. And on top of that, we're already in a format that so many people hate thanks to the Snake Eye cards. But you know what deck fits so well with the Fiendsmith cards? Snake Eye. Snake Eye fits amazingly with them and is honestly going to be the best deck of the format when you combine these 2 strategies together. Just think of it, there are so many amazing hand traps that can help us beat the Snake Eye deck, but you have to pair multiple of them together. Now try and have multiple hand traps and beat the Fiendsmith combo with DDD Wave Hiking Caesar as well. It's just not going to happen very often at all. And honestly, if Moon of the Closed Heaven wasn't released yet, then we wouldn't have to worry as much about it, because the combo just wouldn't be as strong as it is without it. If you thought that any of the new cards or archetypes coming out in the Infinite Forbidden are going to drastically change the format, then you were dead wrong. Fiendsmith Snake Eye will be a tier 0 deck, period. We also will only have 1 day from the release of the Infinite Forbidden to the start of the NAWCQ, which is one of the peak moments in Yu-Gi-Oh! For the competitive season, and that's crazy to think of, that we have this insane combo to deal with now with 1 day to spare. It's just ridiculous. Oh, and we also have no idea when the next ban list is coming, which is just fantastic. Now, look, I'm being very doom and gloom in this video. Is Yu-Gi-Oh! Really going to be ruined or die? Are we gonna just not play the game anymore? Probably not. We're still gonna buy the cardboard and do all these things and go to events and all that, and honestly, I'm happy about that in a way because it means Yu-Gi-Oh! Is growing, but it's not going to be in a healthy place, which really does hurt a game that I have really come to enjoy over the past couple of years. But when you look back at the previous format with all the Snake Eye cards, and then you look at our tier 0 tier limit format from just a few years ago, and then you add in all the Fiendsmith cards and Infinite Forbidden, you start to look and say, you know what? We're about to enter one of the most expensive formats in the history of the game. You look at the Fiendsmith cards. Fiendsmith Engraver is a secret rare. This card is going to easily be $60, $70+ dollars on release, and maybe even more than that. You also have Mulcharmy Pirellia, the new secret rare Max C card that's coming out. I don't want to call it Maxi because it's not exactly Maxi, but you get the point. This card is going to be a staple in so many decks as well, and everyone's going to want to play it at 3 copies. It's also a secret rare. We don't know what the rest of the rarities are for the rest of the Fiendsmith cards in Infinite Forbidden. Thankfully, Moon of the Closed Heaven is just a super rare, maybe even a common, but either way, it's just crazy because it'll probably end up being short printed like Pydra was. The engine itself is going to be crazy expensive, and when you add in the rest of the Snake Eye cards and Wanted and Bonfires and so on and so forth, you're going to have another deck that's easily going to get to the $1,000 or more mark. It's ridiculous. Now, I could have gone a bit more in depth on the Fiendsmith cards, and I'm going to bring you a couple of deck profiles and combo guides on the actual archetype itself when pairing it with other strategies, so if you're excited for that, then make sure to stick around and subscribe. But I also love the Fiendsmith cards. They're so cool in terms of their design and effect and the way that you can incorporate them with so many different strategies, but it's just not that healthy, especially when paired with Moon of the Closed Heaven. But let me know down in the comments what you think about everything I've mentioned in this video today, and what are your thoughts on the Fiendsmith cards as well, and of course Moon of the Closed Heaven. I'd love to know. Make sure to leave a like on the video if you did enjoy the discussion or if you agree with my thoughts, and of course subscribe to the channel for more amazing competitive Yu-Gi-Oh videos. Also, my upload schedule will be changing slightly for the summer. I'll now be bringing you videos on Wednesdays and Fridays and every Sunday or 2 as well, and then once the summer ends, I'll look at bringing back the Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday schedule that I had going on right now. Shout out to my channel members, their support is greatly appreciated. If you want to become a channel member, click the join button, check me out on Twitter, and join the Discord server. The links are in the description, and thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time.